Good morning.
Good morning, Rebecca. How are you?
I am well, and how are you?
Good. Where are you at?
Plantation, Florida.
Oh, okay. I'm in Florida
Mm,
too. Wonderful. I'm in the
we're-
Villages,
Mr.
the
Garver, how are
Gulf Park
you?
community.
Yes.
Hi, Rob.
Hi,
How
Rob.
you doing? How's everybody?
Good.
Good. Good. Can't complain. I'm alive and kicking.
So, Mr. Garver, were you at the Chris Smith event we did years ago?
I'm sorry?
You remember the Chris Smith event at the Venetian?
I don't think so.
You weren't there? We had him speak to us at the Venetian. It was almost like a wedding.
Well, yeah, maybe I was there because that sounds very familiar.
Yeah. I'm excited to have Chris speak to our group today.
You're right. Okay, I was there. I remember that now. Yes.
And Chris, I apologize. I forgot it's a holiday, so we might have a low attendance today, but I know the show is going to be valuable regardless.
Yeah, no problem. Feel free to record it and get it out to everybody.
Yes. So, Robert, Chris Smith is and everybody, he's the co-author of the book Exactly What to Say in Real Estate that I've been telling everybody to read for years. See, he's the author. Isn't that awesome?
I have a copy.
Yep. And he's on here
Awesome.
talking to us. So Chris, I'm a big fan, and I think my whole group here are big fans of your book.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about each of the books and some of the most important lessons from each one, and then, yeah, how that kind of ties into what I'm working on today.
Now, would you consider yourself a serial entrepreneur or a thought leader or both?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur for sure because I run businesses, I build businesses, I love making money. So sometimes I think thought leaders are kind of on the sidelines and giving their commentary. I think I have original and unique ideas that a lot of people don't have, so I try to share those. But yeah, I would say more
Was people
so,
was
yeah,
People Work your first book?
who was? Yeah, people
So
work with Gary V, New Jersey's own, wrote the foreword.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Lost you, Rob. There we go. We got you back.
All right. So we got 1 minute to kick off.
Awesome.
So if everybody can mute yourself if you're not talking, so that we can maximize every minute that we have with Chris here. And maybe Chris, if you want to just introduce yourself at in 1 minute and give everybody a little history, because some of us haven't had the privilege of getting to know you yet. And I'm
Sure.
excited for them to hear a little bit about who Chris Smith is and how lucky we are to have you here today.
No problem.
All right. All right. If you get here late, you lose. So you have to listen to it on the video. So Chris Smith, let me allow that. So Chris Smith is a friend of mine for years, somebody who I've looked up to. He's become an author, an influencer, and a very consequential person in the real estate business and probably business in general. So, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself to the Remax Select group here and tell us how you could help us all out?
Sure. Awesome. Well, can you see the screen okay, Rob?
We can. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so I've been in the industry a while. I was actually thinking about it. My first time with Remax was in 2013 at R4 on the main stage, giving a keynote. So I go back with Rob a long time. I go back with Remax, a long time. And I feel like I really understand the business model and the focus on production per person and how international the brand is. Actually, I didn't tell you this, Rob. I was going to Barcelona, Spain, and I connected through Milan. And when I landed in Milan, I realized that I landed in one airport in Milan and I had to fly out of the other airport in Milan. So I freaked out because I didn't realize it was a different connecting flight. So this is the only time I've ever been to Italy. So I hop in the cab. You guys driving me across Italy to go to the other airport. And all of a sudden in the background, there's a Remax balloon flying in the skyline. And I was just like, wow, that's a brand, How cool is that? So yeah, I go way back with you guys and have worked with and consulted Remax agents over the years. My books are all bestsellers. My first book, People Work, was about how you put people first in a digital first world. So We live in a world where people look at Facebook more than they look at each other's face. We live in a world where people pick up their phone before they pick up their kids, right? And so that shift in human behavior is really important to understand. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. My second book on the screen there, Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. That book has almost 1 million copies sold. It went crazy viral. And it's because it really simplifies how to have conversations that lead to yes in a way that's not the traditional, sleazy salesperson, Wolf of Wall Street type of selling, which I think is sort of dead or hopefully will be gone soon. And then my other book is called The Conversion Code. And the Conversion Code is a blueprint. It's basically a textbook for how to capture high quality leads that are easy to convert, how to stop chasing leads, and how to start attracting business, which is really important. And it's harder than it sounds, but there's a science. And there's art, but there's science. So yeah, I've been a professor at NYU teaching my book. My book is featured at Johns Hopkins as actually required reading to get a marketing degree. It's been translated into 7 languages all over the world. And I just feel really blessed. I'm from a place in Florida called Polk County. It's basically a big cow pasture. And people have said that Polk stands for People of Little Knowledge. That's what the acronym's for. And I'm not an intellectual. I'm not a, Nepo baby or a trust fund kid. I just worked really hard and have had a lot of success and really try to love what I do. So the couple lessons I wanted to share first from people work is really, how do you run a people first business when the world is digital first? And you'd be amazed that like some of the most innovative companies in the world have really figured this out, even though you would think of them as technology companies. And we wrote this before Zoom was even, before Zoom even existed, way before AI existed. This book was written in 2011 and it went viral because real estate agents understand that at the end of the day, it's a people business. It's just that you can't look at the internet and social media and technology different than you look at people. Those are just people on a screen versus people belly to belly. So I wrote that book with Austin Allison. He was the co-founder of Dotloop, and our company got acquired for $108 million by Zillow. The foreword to the book was written by Gary Vaynerchuk, probably the most famous person from New Jersey in the last few years. And there's a lot of Zen learnings in it, but the two that are the most applicable that I wanted to kind of double click on, the first one is that quality is what creates quantity. Quality creates quantity. When you provide an amazing experience, people want to come back again and again. So the example I use in the book is like, have you ever gone to McDonald's and ordered a number 3 and took a picture of it and shared it on social media and said, my Mickey D's was great today? No, you've never done that. I don't even need to actually ask you because we're kind of even embarrassed that we're there. But McDonald's has quantity down pat, right? They have made billions and billions of burgers. If you juxtapose that with something like Starbucks, or even nowadays, I don't know if you guys have Dutch Bros, right? People can't help but go there and take a picture and share their coffee. And, they write on the cup and they treat you like I work at Starbucks every day. They let me sit there for hours. I'm on their Wi-Fi for hours. I don't even have to pay for an office. Starbucks is my office. They never kick me out. They actually give me free refills on my cold brew. So what happens is Starbucks made a decision to focus on what's called LTV, which is lifetime value. And this is a big unlock for a lot of people. You should treat every customer, every interaction like the lifetime value that they create, not their transactional value. So I'm guessing you have worked with someone that you worked with again, and they sent someone, and the person they sent someone, and then the person they sent worked with you again. How much is 5 deals worth? You know, if you're making even $10,000 per closing, 5 deals is worth $50,000. So do you call people back with a $50,000 mindset? Do you send them a handwritten note with a $50,000 mindset? Do you do client parties thinking about the fact that every single client there is worth $50, $80, $100,000 to your business? So that's what I mean by quality, creating quantity. And the best example of that is Apple, because Apple obsesses about the quality of their products. And they didn't have as many people using MacBooks when I wrote this book as PCs. There were more realtors when I got in the industry using Blackberries than iPhones. People weren't using Safari. They were using Internet Explorer. But Steve Jobs is probably the best case study ever of being obsessed about a quality experience. He thinks like a consumer and he creates products that they love. And this quote, I think, is something we all should think about. Quality is more important than quantity. 1 home run is way better than 2 doubles. I actually read a stat the other day that I just remembered. Consumers are not looking for 5 stars. In fact, when consumers see that you have 5 stars, they start to get skeptical that that's even possible. But you know what the minimum bar is? 4.4. If your reviews are under 4.4, like 70% of people won't reach out. So the bar is super high. Quality creates quantity. The second principle that I think is really critical for this industry is that service is marketing. Your customer experience is a marketing investment. The better the experience, the better the word of mouth. The better the experience, the more referrals. The better the experience, the more likely they are to use you again. But people think of service as overhead. They don't think of it as marketing. And so this is something for me that is just wrap your head around the fact that investing in the experience the customer has is investing in marketing. 90% of your business is probably from referrals and past clients. But I bet 90% of your marketing and advertising is chasing leads. People are so obsessed with generating leads, but they don't invest in a great service, a great experience. They don't think about what Disney calls pixie dust, which is how can we make our experience better? One example of that, I live in Orlando, so it's just top of mind. When somebody buys tickets to go to Disney now, they get a wristband in the mail a couple days later, even if the trip is not for months and months, because they want to provide that world-class experience. Now, I shouldn't say this. I hate Disney. I'm from here, so I'm allowed to say that. And I think it's one of the most miserable experiences, but they do everything they can to make it as good as they can. And so I want you to think about your process from A to Z. I'll give you one example, Rob, that I think you'll appreciate. This was actually a RE/MAX agent in San Francisco. The San Francisco market is incredibly competitive. And if you're not being strategic and if you're not doing something that causes you to stand out, you're not going to win every listing. You're going to get 25, 50, 75% of your appointments to convert. Well, this agent, when I was working in Inman News, she shared that every time she has a listing appointment, she comes back the next day with a beautiful orchid. And she knocks on their door and she says, "Hey, I just wanted to drop this off. I forgot to bring it in when I came yesterday." Now she does that on purpose. And 9 out of 10 times that she does that, they say, "Well, since you're here already, come on in." And they list with her. I have another client. She created a photo book. This thing's amazing. It's like a huge, like coffee table style book. And all she did is she put in her best listing photos that she's ever taken or had taken, obviously. And what happens when she goes to a listing appointment, and instead of saying we do professional photography, that's not pixie dust. That's table stakes. Everybody says that. That's not a differentiator. That's like saying we have Facebook. That's like in 1910 saying we have electricity, imagine a hotel saying we have beds, right? Those things are expected. So when she goes in with this photo book, she hands it to them and she says, "Hey, I wanted you to see some of the quality photography that we've had done in the past and that we're going to get done for you. And she said, what that does is it immediately changes the conversation from should we choose you to are you going to put our house in the book? That is people work in a nutshell. So, even though these guys like Jobs and Zuck and Musk and, all these Sam Altmans of the world, like they're all known as these tech innovative, guys, but they understand something that I think all of you understand, which is that nothing influences people more than a recommendation from a trusted friend. So how do you create recommendations from trusted friends? Well, the key word is trust. And unfortunately, in the real estate industry, people don't trust us, especially strangers. People don't trust or like realtors. The consumer sentiment is very negative. In fact, you guys should all do this later today. Go to Google, okay? And you guys know Google has something called type ahead. So if I put in the letter A, they're trying to predict what I'm going to type next. They think I'm going to type Amazon, Airbnb, right? If I put in the letter B, they think I'm typing Best Buy. If I put in the letter R, they think I'm typing Roblox or Reddit. Well, watch what happens when I type in my realtor is, okay? Look what it thinks I'm going to type. Pressuring me, not selling my house, not working for me, isn't doing her job, is not responsive, is not responding. That's what Google thinks the search is going to be. That's what people think about our industry. And so the question is, how do you overcome that and build trust? Now, if I were talking to you guys in 2021, I wouldn't even probably do this call, because you take a listing, you put it on the market, you get multiple offers and on day one. Well, what's happening now with the market is very different. Days on market is up over 300%. Price reductions are up over 100%. And expireds and withdrawn listings are up. There have never been more expireds or withdrawn listings than there are today. That's just a fact. So what do you do about it? What have you invested in? What are you doing for your customer to kind of tackle that head on? And that is why I built a really cool tool called Beacon. Beacon addresses how you can keep your sellers out of the dark. See, what I know being in the industry is that you guys do work super hard. You just don't let anybody know that you are. You keep it a secret. And so what Beacon does is it shines a light on the hard work you're doing. So it's a win-win. The number one complaint in real estate is that I have no idea what my agent is doing. That's the number one complaint. So when I built this company, I said, let's tackle that, because we know all these realtors that are awesome and that work hard. But meanwhile, you go to Google and you guys saw what the results were. So what Beacon does is it keeps your sellers in the loop, and it does it in a fraction of the time. AI should save you a ton of time. What should that time savings do? It should allow you to focus more on people and the emotional side of a transaction. So to update a seller in the past, and maybe you guys can kind of feel this pain, you have to log into a bunch of different stuff, pull a bunch of different data. You are doing social media campaigns, you have the MLS data, you have the data about the portals, you have the data about the comps. There's so many things that you have to pull together. And we thought, what if we could make the process better, faster, and more beautiful? That's all we asked ourselves if we could do. Could it be better than what agents do now? Could it be way faster and save them time? If you have one or two listings, you may not need this. You may just be able to roll up your sleeves and use some elbow grease and put together an email to send them. Or the worst way to update sellers is when they say, we need to talk, and then you talk. That's not the ideal time. So when we rolled out Beacon, and this was really important to Rob when we talked, can this help my agents win more listings? Can this help my agents win more price reductions? Can this help my agents reduce the number of listings that get withdrawn or expire? And that's exactly what it does. This is a couple just testimonial. It's next level. It impresses my sellers every single week. I am winning listing appointments by showing how I collect and communicate property activity. It makes me look like a total pro. This other agent, Shannon, 30% of my listings are takeovers. The number one reason they give for firing their agent is the lack of communication and updates. People are not leaving because your marketing's bad. They're leaving because your communication is bad. But meanwhile, I bet if I went through every single one of your listing presentations, I bet none of them include a communication plan and strategy. I bet all of them include a marketing plan. So that's what Beacon addresses. So I just wanted to show it to you guys really quickly to kind of get a feel for it, see what it looks like. This is going to put all of your properties in one view. And what this does in seconds, not hours, is it pulls in every listing and it pulls in all the comps and it pulls in all the social media activity and it provides context and it shows them how many views they're getting online. It shows them the social media campaigns. It shows them all of the seller feedback. It shows them the 95 tasks that you've actually completed behind the scenes. And this takes less than 5 minutes to build once your account is set up. So this is called Beacon. The other thing is it all integrates with your showing services. So every showing is added automatically. All of the social media posts are added automatically. All of your tasks and all of your what we call playbooks are added automatically. So if I know that every time I get a listing, I do these 17 things, now my seller knows too. And this takes literally minutes to create. If I want to share a report like this, all I have to do is hit share and it'll actually use all of the AI to provide the report for the customer. And they get this beautiful interactive experience. The other thing that we do is we asked them for feedback. We want this to be a two-way conversation. And so you can see at the bottom there, like this is what I call predictive analytics for, expired listings. So when they get the report, you can actually add a quick survey where it says, hey, how are you feeling about the sale right now? Well, I'm worried. What are you worried about? Well, we haven't had enough showings or interest. What would help the most right now? It would help to schedule a call. Boom. They can add anything else they want to do, and then they send that to you. So now you've actually got a record of exactly how they're feeling, and all they had to do was click, submit. So I'm going to ask you guys in the chat. And yes, there's a cost involved. I'll cover that in a second. But let me know in the chat, just put a Y in the chat for yes, if you think your sellers would appreciate getting a report like this every week. Just let me know in the chat. Be honest. Is this better than what you're providing now? Thank you, Kathleen, for being honest. Somebody asked, what is the price? There's no price, because what I've done, and this is the only way that you can get this. You guys, thanks to Rob, are going to get a 30-day free trial, no cost. Normally, if you were to go to our website right now, which you should do, buildyourbeacon.com, normally it's a 7-day free trial. But Rob wanted you guys to get a full month for free. So you go to buildyourbeacon.com. Maybe somebody could drop a link that's clickable in the chat for me. And when you go to sign up and you get to the part where you're choosing your payment, you're going to enter the promo code 30-day trial. And that's going to give you Beacon for a full month for free. The good news is, if you love it, it's incredibly inexpensive per seller and per listing. If you don't love it, you can cancel. There's no contract. There's no long-term commitment. You don't have to talk to a salesperson. You can literally sign up, but that promo code is only for you guys and only for today. So make sure you take advantage of that. The second book that I wanted to talk about is called Exactly What to Say. And when I was researching this, if I were to unmute everybody and say, what does your seller say at the appointment? What do they say about your commission? What do they say about their goals? Realtors seem to know what the other person says, the buyer, the seller, the past client. They just don't always know exactly what they should say. And that's why this book went super viral. It's super simple. It's literally what we call magic words that lead to a yes or a maybe instead of a no. The thesis is very simple. The worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment that you're going to say. The people that are amazing at sales are dialed in. Every large sales organization in the world that does billions of dollars of sales, they have scripts, they have frameworks, they have playbooks. They know what they're going to say. They know what they're going to say when they get an objection about the person needing to talk to their wife. They know what they're going to say when somebody says, well, I need to wait and think about it. They know what they're going to say when somebody says, well, my cousin's a realtor, we're probably just going to use them. So you need to know what to say. That's why this book did really well. But the key is very simple. The person who asks questions is the person who controls the conversation. Questions create conversations. Conversations create clients. That's it. You have to be the most curious person, not the best salesperson. You have to have empathy and curiosity. And the magic words are just a way to empower you to do so. So I'll give you guys an example. Let me know in the chat. Do you consider yourself to be open-minded? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. Are you open-minded? Tracy, Trisha, Kathleen, Idona, Pam, everybody. Every now and then I get a no. Very rare. Everybody thinks they're open-minded. Okay. The reality is, let me reshare my screen. Somebody had their drawing tool. The reality is that not everybody is open-minded. So, but we can take advantage of the fact that people think they are. So I'll give you a couple scenarios where you could use a phrase like open-minded. Would you be open-minded to lowering your asking price if it would create some immediate interest? Would you be open-minded to working with a trusted local lender to get this approved? Would you be open-minded to considering some alternative neighborhoods? So when you phrase it like that, which there's 27 magic phrases in the book, this is just one of them. But what happens is people don't want to say they're closed-minded. Everybody in the chat just said they're open-minded. Okay. How many of you are willing to switch your political party? None of you. Right? So how open-minded are we really? Let's think about that. Okay, Miguel. Kathleen said none. But you guys get the point, right? Like, you are not open-minded about everything, but people don't want to be the opposite of that, which is closed-minded. Now, another phrase from the book that's super powerful is, could it be possible? So instead of saying, is this correct? Are you going to do blank? Do you think they're saying it for this reason? You just use a little bit of softer language. Could it be possible, right? And I'll give you a couple scenarios for that. Could it be possible? This would be when they get an offer that's good, but it's not perfect. Could it be possible that you don't receive any better offers and we find ourselves with an expired listing? Yeah, could be. Could it be possible? And this is a big one. I'm guessing you're up against some agents that will take a listing at a price that's too high just to secure the listing. And if that comes up, could it be possible that they're suggesting it's worth more just to get the listing? Could it be possible? Yeah. Another one that comes up a lot is the mixing business and family, right? Like business, working with your sister, working with your aunt, working with your cousin. Could it be possible that mixing family and business is a bad idea? So these are ways to ask questions that create the outcomes that you're looking for. Now, another one of the things that I help agents with is YouTube. We help agents dominate YouTube in their local market. And what we've learned is that agents have no idea what to say in their videos. This is a little daunting, but I'll give you guys the blueprint for YouTube, because a ton of agents want to do YouTube and they almost all do it wrong. So I'll give you the algorithm. Here's what YouTube wants. They want a video every week. They want videos that are 15 to 20 minutes. They want videos that are highly edited, and they want videos with amazing thumbnails, right? So if I said, hey, Debbie, hey, Robert, can you guys tell me what your strategy is for the next 52 weeks on YouTube? You need to put out a video every week for 52 weeks that are 15 to 20 minutes. You probably wouldn't have any clue where to start. And that's why when I look at YouTube channels of realtors, what do I see? I see very short videos. I see sporadic uploading. I see market reports and listing videos that are not evergreen. They have no long legs. The beauty of YouTube is that it's Google. And the beauty of YouTube is that it's the #1 most cited platform when it comes to AI citations. So when people go in and say, what's the best place in New Jersey to move to? Where do affluent people in, South Jersey live, right? That's what they're looking for. So what my company does is you hire our team and you have a strategist and you have a manager and you have a script writer and we do all the editing and we do all the design. We pay those folks $30,000 a month. You pay us much less than that. Now, the kind of videos that we create, which are the kind of videos you guys should be creating, are things like FAQs. If I'm moving to, Jersey because I want to work in New York, but I want to live in the burbs, I don't know about Warren, New Jersey. I never heard of it. So you need to think about things like FAQs, things like local expertise. And then affluent people love YouTube. Things like where should the ultra wealthy live? Driving tour of Billionaires Row. So we work on these videos. You can see the number of views and they get a ton of views, but I want you to look at the one that says Dallas's ultra rich. And there's 2 little badges on that video. You see one that says 100x. That means that video that we created got 100 times more views than his average video. The other thing that we look at is what's called VPH. You can see that video is getting 33 views per hour. That's what that means, views per hour. But look at when it was published. It was published 6 months ago, and it's still getting 33 views per hour. So YouTube is wide open in real estate when you do it properly. It's just that most people don't have enough time. The idea of coming up with the idea, coming up with the script, doing all the editing, creating a thumbnail, it's sort of a task most people are not willing to tackle. Most of the clients we work with on their YouTube channels are already at 15 million per year in volume or more, just to give you an idea of kind of the clients we work with on that. But these channels explode. We have channels in every major market, every city, and our average client does 10 million in volume in their first year from just YouTube leads. So when you know what to say, when you know exactly what to say on YouTube, it works. And the last thing I'll say about this is it's the only place on the internet where people will give you a lot of their time. When people are on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, when they're in their inbox even, they're not spending 6 minutes with you. Now on YouTube, they might watch 7 of your videos and they might watch 8 minutes per video. That's why the YouTube leads are the best leads besides a referral or a past client. There's no better high quality lead than somebody that's watching you on their television in their living room for an hour. And then they say, hey, Robert, hey, Miguel, we want to chat. So I'll tell you guys how to reach out about that at the end if you're interested. The last thing I'll cover is the conversion code. This is my baby. This was published by Wiley. They're actually out of New Jersey, the #1 business book publisher in the world. This was international bestseller, USA Today bestseller. It's been translated into 7 different languages. It went super viral. And I want to give you guys a couple of the lessons that are just super easy to digest from the book. And the first one is one that I think about all the time. I call it the science of sales. And this is also the science of marketing. I'm not an intellectual, I said that, but I can understand simple drawings like this. So if you strip sales down to its core, it's actually just 3 things. Your job in sales and in marketing is to get people more excited than the cost during the time you have their attention. That's it. They have to be more excited than the cost during the time you have their attention. If you try to close them too soon, they don't buy. If you talk yourself out of a deal, they don't buy. So just think about this chart. Take a screenshot of it. Draw it on your whiteboard. When you're on a call or when you're at an appointment, this is all you're trying to do. You're trying to get them more emotionally invested than the price during the time you have their attention. That's it. That's the science of sales. Unfortunately, when I did the research, this is the people that are happy, they're satisfied with their lead to sales conversion rate. Only 12% of people are very satisfied with their lead conversion rate. Most people have an insanely leaky bucket. So if I'm going to help you with YouTube and help you generate business and leads from YouTube, why would we put them into a CRM that doesn't create any deals? Why would we put them into a database where there's no follow-up in place? It makes no sense. So what this really means is that 88% of people are not satisfied with their lead conversion rate. And I would bet most of you would agree that you could convert a lot higher of your leads. So why is there such a big disconnect? Well, when you look at the research, 95% of leads do not become a customer in the first month. And most realtors don't even follow up for the first week. So this is the data on how long it takes leads to convert. 46% of leads take more than 7 months to convert. 18% of leads take more than a year to convert. So you clearly have to stay in touch with people if you're going to convert the highest number of leads possible. How do you do that? You do that through phone, email, text, social. There's obviously a lot of channels you can stay in front of people. But if we were to say, I need new leads. People always think they need new and more leads. It's just not true. 95% of your new leads are not going to create business for you. If you told me right now, if Rob said, Chris, log into the database of an agent of mine and set an appointment as fast as you can, I can promise you I would not be focusing on the leads that were less than 30 days old. I would be focusing on that 4 to 6 month sweet spot. Who's been in the database for 4 to 6 months? Who's been nurtured? And who's still opening and engaging with the stuff I send them? That would be my call list if that were kind of the assignment that I was given. Now, there are things you can do that will drastically increase your odds of converting and keeping in touch. One of them, this is incredibly simple, I'll walk you guys through it, is segmenting your list. Okay. So let's say you have 500 people on your list. And let's say you're getting a 30% open rate. Okay. 30%. That's 150 people. Okay. So 150 people open. Well, if your newsletter is about a bunch of different stuff and it's got events and it's got restaurants and it's got listings and it's got market data, which are the things it should have. Well, we don't want to focus on everybody. We want to focus on the people that are actually showing intent to buy or sell soon. I used to work with a top agent. She was with Remax. Her name was Sue Adler. And she said, Chris, I love talking to people. I just love talking to people that are buying or selling a home soon more. I think a lot of you guys can probably relate to that ideology. So if I send out an email newsletter, and that's another thing that I help agents with is email marketing and monetizing their database, you want to include, you want to be the digital mayor. You're the boots on the ground. You want to be the neighborhood expert and the local expert, and you want to understand your community better than anything else. So if there's a new Dunkin' Donuts coming, or if there's some type of commercial or urban development happening, you want to be the source of that. But that is somebody that's at the top of the funnel. And that is somebody that you're just keeping in touch with and staying top of mind with, top of inbox, top of mind. But if in that same email, you have testimonials of people that you just helped sell their home, or you have tips on how to get your home ready to sell it so that you sell it for the most, that's a bottom of the funnel click. So when I say segmenting, you have to think of it as sending the email is not the finish line, it's the starting line. When we send the email, all we're doing is trying to create data that gives us the ability to focus on the right people. So this is what that looks like. If you were to really sit down and map it out, this is what your follow-up should be. You should have a really great A+ email newsletter that you send to your whole database 1, 2, or 4 times per month. Okay. I will be honest, monthly is really not the best option anymore. Monthly on the internet is like dog years. Every 30 days is like an eternity in internet years. So I recommend bi-weekly or a weekly newsletter. The good news is when your newsletter is amazing, people like getting it. So you start by sending something to everyone. And then you segment. Did they open your newsletter? Or did they click on a high intent link? If they opened it, then what we do is 2 weeks later, we send them what's called a conversation starter. It's not a newsletter. It's a simple, quick email, just like I talk about in the conversion code, that's optimized for replies. There's no design. There's no template. It just says, hey, do you know how much your home has gained in equity in the last 12 months? If not, I'd be happy to put together a report for you. So that's what we call a conversation starter. But if they clicked a high intent link, you need to put them on a separate list to call. You still have to call people. Like, so many people are avoiding the phone. The whole point of social, mobile, email, AI, the point of all of this is to create more conversations. How many meaningful conversations are you having per day about real estate? So what that looks like in the real world, this is actually a report that we create for our clients. We say, hey, who are the hand raisers? That's what I want you guys to think about them. Who raised their hand and said, you should call me? Well, in this example, this is a real report. Sarah, she opened up 3 things, and she didn't just open, she clicked. She clicked on what's my home worth, and she looked at the same listing 2 days in a row. So she went in on June 15th and she looked at Lakeshore Drive. She went back to the email on June 16th and she looked at Lakeshore Drive. And then when she went back on June 16th, she also looked at what's her home worth. What do I now know about Sarah? I know that she owns a home that she needs to sell and that she's looking for another one to buy. Do you guys agree that you should call Sarah? She's already in your database. You might even know her. I don't care if she's a lead, a past client, or somebody in my sphere. I care that she is behaving. I call this BBF, behavior-based follow-up. She is behaving in a way that shows me that she is going to transact soon. So I need her on a separate list of people to call. That's what we call a hand raiser. The good news is email is incredibly inexpensive. AI can be ridiculously helpful. And we just finished this survey about a week ago. We took sphere of influence out of the equation because we all know that's the best lead. But when we asked what is the best channel for lead quality, number 1 by a mile was email. It wasn't even close. It wasn't Zillow. It wasn't Google. It wasn't Facebook. It wasn't Instagram. It was email. And then we said, what about for listings? What are the best channels for getting listings? And email was also number 1 on that list by far. Email marketing and keeping in touch with people through email is the number 1 way to generate high quality leads and listings. There were some other things that worked. Organic social media, direct mail, open houses, but nothing comes close to email. So the good news is we know it works and it doesn't cost a lot. That's why it has a 36-to-1 ROI. But the reality is, and this is kind of, I hate to end on a negative Nancy note here, but the reality is that if you're a realtor, 8% of your database each year is going to buy or sell. Some years it might be higher or lower. If it's slow market right now, maybe it's 4%. If it's a really good market, maybe it's 10%. 8% of your database buys or sells each year. Here's the part that's really sad. 95% of those people transact with someone else. This is data from a company called Fellow. They track every transaction, every conversion in your database, whether it happens or not. So it's kind of hard to do the math. If you say, well, 8% transact, but 95% do it with someone else, here's what that means. It means that agents are only turning 0.35% of their database into a deal. That is a really bad conversion rate, considering it's coming from the people that already know you and like you and trust you, and they're already in your database. You don't need to capture their information. So if any of you guys are interested in working with me, and I'll be happy to do Q&A here, Rob, if you guys want to do some Q&A. But if you're interested in our AI seller reports, buildyourbeacon.com, promo code 30-day trial, get you guys all Beacon for 30 days for free. If you're interested in learning more about getting help with YouTube or monetizing your database, our website is known local, no O in known, knownlocal.com/YouTube or /email. And then if you just want to go old school, make it super easy to get in touch and ask questions, I've also got my email address there at the bottom, chris@theconversioncode.com. You guys can reach out through any of these platforms. Be happy to chat with you guys. And that's all I got. Rob, what do you think, buddy?
I think it's amazing. Adona, can you allow people to unmute if they have any questions?
Yes. Also, Chris, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. There's a question. What is the cost, the monthly cost to build your beacon after 30 days?
Yeah, great question. So Beacon is based on the number of active listings. If you go to buildyourbeacon.com and click on pricing, it'll bring you right down here to the bottom. Up to 5 active listings is $99 per month, and up to 25 active listings is $249 per month. So basically, your price per listing and your price per seller goes down the more beacons that you create. But yeah, I think incredibly inexpensive for the power that it provides. But the pricing's right there on the site. And that pricing would kick in after 30 days, and then you can cancel or keep it for as long as you'd like.
Chris, before I open for questioning, can you share an affiliate link for us? That way I can share it with the team, and when we send out our newsletters, we can attach it.
Yeah, the 30-day trial is your code.
Okay.
Like I said before, you're the only one that has that promo code. So every single deal that comes through that promo code is credited to Remax, or for you and Rob. Yep.
Awesome. All of you can unmute yourself if you have questions. Looks like there's one more question. How many MLSs can you include in this?
In Beacon?
Beth?
Yeah, she's probably talking about Beacon. The data feeds we have data feeds through a bunch of different sources. But if you have listings, we actually work with brokerages and teams that are all over the country. So you don't technically connect your MLS. We have a data feed under the hood that pulls that in. But yeah, that's, I guess the short answer is unlimited. We don't charge per MLS, and we don't charge per user. So if you have, a 10-person team, all 10 of them can use Beacon, and the price is the same. We only charge per listing. The price that you pay is locked in for 12 months. And then if you have more listings, which we hope in 12 months, the price never goes up by more than 10% of your original price. So if you're paying $250 a month and you had 25 listings, next year you have 50 listings, your price would just go up by $25. It doesn't jump or double.
So Chris, I want to just, before we kind of go into more direct questions, the reason why I connected was I saw some people that I respected talking about Beacon on podcasts and social media, and then I reached out to Chris, and he immediately contacted Adona and I back and was gracious. My thought is that this can do two things. One is it can elevate the experience. And I think you're talking about this in people work about, you can spend money marketing, or you can spend money giving a better experience. And this, I think, gives a better experience. And it also shows how we're different and how we can differentiate ourselves from the competition. Because if you do this, in 2 weeks, and then you do it in 4 days, then you do it in 7 days, the lack of consistency, in my opinion, shows a weakness and a vulnerability in our system. And the second thing is the amount of time that you can save. If we all know what the value of our time is and how we can repurpose that, that's going to be incredibly powerful. And I'm going to repeat a story, Chris, because I just think everybody should hear it. If you heard it already, maybe it has more impact when you hear it again. There was an agent who her client asked her to come by 2 days before the closing, and when they came by, they introduced the agent to two of their trusted neighbors, and the agent called me up and said that was like one of the nicest things that ever happened. He walked me over and he said to the neighbor, "This is your listing agent," and I called him. I thanked the gentleman, and he said, "Rob, I didn't do it for your agent. I did it for my two friends." And that was like an empowering aha moment for me. And I related it to, if you go to a new restaurant, Chris, that's great. You're going to tell people about it, but you don't know the chef, you don't know the owner. You're just sharing the experience for your friends and the people that you trust. And this long story all ties back to giving a consistent experience, I think, will make the business more repeatable and put us at a different level where even price, our commission rate is much less of an obstacle in growing the business.
Mhm.
So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. If it was too long-winded, I apologize.
No, some people are foodies and they might know the name of the chef, but the only chef I know is Gordon Ramsay, and I've never been to his restaurants. You're absolutely right. People refer people because they want their friend to have a great experience. They want their friend to have a great meal. They want their friend to work with a realtor that's legit, that's trustworthy, for sure. I dropped a couple links in the chat. If you guys want to keep in touch on Instagram, I share awesome stuff there almost every single day. I also have an email newsletter called the Chris List. It's insanely popular, where I share a little bit longer form help. But I wanted to give you guys a super bonus, Rob. I actually am going to drop this in the chat. I'm going to give you guys all a free copy of People Work. Now, it's a digital copy. It's an ebook. It's not the physical copy, but every single one of you guys can actually get that and read that for free. I just dropped that in the chat. It's a Google Drive link. And it's funny how ahead of its time that book was. And I think of all the books that I've written, that one is the most relevant and sort of Nostradamus. The other ones are very practical. Conversion code, exactly what to say. Practical, actionable. You'll take a million notes. But yeah, People Work is so good. I want as many people to read that as possible. So yeah, enjoy that.
And Chris, how old is that book? Because that was a long time ago, probably 15 years, 12 years.
Yeah, let me pull up the old published date. Yeah, so it actually was, well, we wrote it in 2013. It was published in January of 2014. So it's 12 and a half, 12 and a half years old.
And for those of you, who weren't at the event we had Chris speak at, I remember years ago, Chris was the first person that introduced me to this thing called Uber and Airbnb. He was talking about these things before it was part of our vocabulary. And I thought that was like really cool because I thought he was crazy at the time.
Yeah.
And
my wife also thought I was crazy, Rob. She thought I was going to get murdered when I went to Spain. I stayed in an Airbnb in Spain in 2011. No one knew what Airbnb was, and everybody had seen the movie Hostel, so they assumed that was going to be my outcome, was being murdered while I was there. But I stayed in a bedroom of this guy named Hector, and it was such an amazing experience. And the only reason I did it, speaking of referrals, I was working for Google at a conference, and Google reached out to us and said, there's no hotels left in the whole city, but you guys should try this thing called Airbnb where you can stay with a local. And I was like, well, Google probably doesn't want me to get murdered, so I'll give this a shot. And that was my first experience with Airbnb. I told everybody about it. I said how cool it was. I actually had breakfast with Hector and his son every morning. They taught me about Barcelona. They taught me about Spain. It was an amazing experience. And I've stayed in very few hotels since, anytime I'm taking a long trip.
And Chris, it's hard to imagine because that's like, Uber is a verb now. I want to Uber to the airport, right? And Airbnb, everybody knows about it, but at the time it seemed to be crazy, and now it's the standard. And that's what I love about when you talk about it, is you're giving us insight into, you know, what the future is going to be looking like. And, nobody gets it perfect, but you have a pretty good grip on, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. And let's not reinvent the wheel, folks.
Well, and there's a first mover advantage, Rob, because if you think about something like DocuSign, the first time people bought a house by signing on their phone, this is a jaw-dropping moment that you tell everybody about. Now, it's the status quo. It would be very weird to not be able to do that. If you think about even going back to the idea of photography, I'm sure you remember, Rob, there's a very long time where professional pictures were not normal. It was a differentiator, and
Yep.
listing videos were a differentiator. So there's this really interesting, actually, I'll show this. We'll wrap it up with this. You guys should all look this up. It's called the Rogers Innovation Curve, because you talked about, am I an innovator? Am I a thought leader? And the Rogers curve is very simple. It shows how people adopt technology. So only about 2.5% of people are innovators, meaning they come up with the idea, they build the software. Travis invented Uber. Brian invented Airbnb. But there's this 13.5% that are early adopters. They love the new stuff. They try the new stuff. And then there's another 34% that are what's called the early majority. Now, the other half of the curve is the late majority and the laggards. Okay. Laggards is kind of what a lot of in our industry are. They have to get dragged kicking and screaming because they want their keyboard on their BlackBerry. They're sort of the last one to change. So you don't need to be an innovator. You don't even necessarily need to be a super early adopter, but you definitely want to be on the left-hand side of the Rogers curve. You want to be in the early majority, because those are the people that experience outsized upside from doing so.
Well, I thank you for sharing that insight. And every time we get together, I always take a handful of notes and learn something valuable. So thank you
Yeah,
much.
thank you. Next time I'm in town, we got to grab dinner, but only if Idona comes too. She's the tough one. I like her the most. I'd love to continue to win her over. She's awesome, and you got a good right-hand man there.
Thank you so much. Everybody have a great weekend, and see you all next Friday. Chris, thank you.
Before we
Thank
hang
you,
up,
guys.
was there any creative done? I came on a little bit late for the announcement you made last week for us to share on social media.
For the number 2 mover.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Idona. You want to speak to that? I know that you and Fred have done some work getting that built out.
So we're working on it. We should have it done by end of the day, Trish.
Perfect. Thank you, Idona.
You're
And thank you for
You're very welcome. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.